Hey guys, today we're going to go over pivot charts and how to interpret the information. But first, we're going to watch a little video because every time I hear the word pivot, this is what I think of.
All right, ready? Turn. Okay. Turn. Turn. I don't think we can turn anymore. I just don't think it's gonna fit. Oh yeah, well come on, up. Yes. Here we go. Pivot. 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 Shut up. Shut up. Shut up.
All right, now I have all of you guys ready to binge watch Friends now that they don't have it on Netflix anymore. But moving on. So the first thing we're going to look at is 5 athletes, and we're comparing volume load that they had for the week, the total amount of weight lifted, and then session RPE. So if you look here, there's an overall positive relationship between the load and the session RPE between the athletes. The higher the load, with the exception of one athlete, the higher the session RPE, which is what we would expect, right? Heavier loads, the workout should feel harder. This is an average over a week's worth of 50-minute workouts, so the session RPE is relative to the individual because they all had 50-minute workouts. So remember, our session RPE is the duration, which would be 50 minutes times that RPE for the session. So if I thought, wow, that was a 10, my load would be a 500. If I thought it was a 5, my load would be more like 250. So when you guys are displaying this, you want to make sure that you can get that point across. So I added a line here because it's shallow. It's not a great slope, but it's enough to see the difference, that the relationship is similar, starting high and ending low, with the exception here. All right, so slide 2, looking at Monday's sprint times. All right. And then Friday's sprint times. On Monday, all the athletes showed more neurological readiness than on Friday, meaning their sprint times were faster. They were more neurologically ready to go. That is a way to see if your athletes are fatigued with just a quick neurological readiness test, whether it's a sprint or a vertical jump. That usually tells you what's going on. This was reflected by their sprint times being slower on Friday, which makes sense because the training load was highest on Wednesday. So you would expect more fatigue a couple of days after that big training session on Wednesday. Since this is preseason, we now know that we need to tweak the training loads throughout the week so that the athletes are most neurologically ready going into the weekend for when they need to perform for their matches. So, big important thing here is if I'm looking at these charts left to right, I might not see a huge difference. So, it's really important to make sure that your scales are the exact same. So, when you go into Excel, it might want to shift your numbers depending on your highest number. Like this might be 4.05, or this might start at 3.7. So, if these numbers are not the same, it's not really an accurate depiction of what you're trying to show on the graph. So as long as you're comparing a side by side, you need to make sure these values are the same. The same goes for your data points. I would label each of these data points because I can sit here and look at this 4.03 and this 4.02 over here, but if it's not marked 4.02 or 4.03, it's going to be a little harder for me to tell just by looking at it. So add the data labels. And that example is in the Excel video that I posted for you guys. When we're looking at average energy levels and average post-session RPE, and the energy levels were taken before on that wellness questionnaire. So when we're looking at those, we seem to have a specific relationship as well. When the energy levels before the lift were lower than an 8, the RPE values for the session were higher than an 8. This tells us that the lower energy levels of the athlete starting before the practice or the lift, the harder the perceived effort was for the session. This inverse relationship between energy levels and RPE suggests that the more energies the athletes have before the lift, the easier the session felt to them. So it's kind of the opposite there, which would make sense to any of us. If we feel high energy before the lift, we're probably going to have a lower perceived exertion for the lift, and vice versa. So this is why it's good to take in wellness information, because you're not always going to see what you want to see just based on the numbers, right? If you want your athletes lifting at an 8 for the day, but they're doing their load and you didn't see what their energy was before, how they were feeling, they're going to do the load that you asked them to do if they can, but maybe it feels like a 10 to them. Or maybe it feels like a 6 and you need to increase the load a little bit. All right, so this is an average of all of our questions from our wellness questionnaire. We have sleep quality, energy levels, school-related stress, and level of soreness. The team average for sleep quality, energy levels, and school-related stress all seem to decline from Monday. This is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. All seem to decline from Monday to Friday, having an inverse response to the level of soreness, which increased throughout the week as expected. So if you look at this blue marker here, soreness increased from Monday, Wednesday to Friday, which we would expect. And that would obviously have an inverse relationship to all of these, right? So if you are more sore, maybe you're getting less sleep quality because you're not recovering as well. We're seeing less sleep quality through the week. The energy levels are lower through the week. And then school-related stress doesn't change a whole lot, but that's just a 1 week look. If we looked at the stress levels over a month or a quarter or a semester, then you can see it really play into effect. The stress levels aren't going to show us exactly what we want to see just looking at it based upon a week, but some of the other measures give us a little bit more insight. All right, so that was just going over a few different ways that you guys can interpret. So when you're looking at the data set that I gave you, you might want to manipulate it a little bit just to be able to more appropriately explain what you're trying to explain. Obviously, when you have real data sets, I don't want you guys manipulating them. But for the point of this project, you might have numbers that are really, really close because we have a small sample size that don't show what you want to show. So if you want to change a sprint time or you want to change a vertical jump with to more appropriately match maybe a low sleep number or a high sleep number to show what you're trying to show, I am totally okay with that. As long as you guys can explain what the graph is showing and give a little bit more deeper analysis and show me that you understand what you're supposed to be understanding and that you can interpret different things from your graphs, I'm totally okay with it. Let me know if you have any questions in the forums. And I had one of the undergraduates ask, am I missing something? Why do you keep saying forum? And I realized in my program we call them forums, but here on Canvas for you guys, they're called discussions. So just know from now on, if I say forum, it means discussion.